So let's go through the review here. The first page we did in class, I'm going to go through it pretty quick. I'm not going to say all the words here. A chord, right? A chord is any line that starts and stops on the circle. And so that would be a chord. A tangent is a line that when it hits the circle, it kind of just barely touches it or grazes it. It just has one. That's a terrible 1 point. That's 1 point of touch. And so that's a tangent. And then a secant, kind of like a chord, hits it twice, but continues to go on forever. On least one side. Okay. Number two, it says BF. And so my first question I would ask myself is, where the heck is BF? Well, BF is right there. FD is, and so BF is a radius. FD is a radius. All radii are congruent. So if BF is 9, so is FD. There's two equations, all right, you need to know for circumference. I would have both of those in my notes. Now, I want to use this equation on the right just because we have the diameter given to us. Diameter, and that's the d, so pi times 14. I take a calculator right now. I do 14 times pi, and I get 43.98. The formula you need for number 4, and so for this one I would plug 36 in for M, 12 in for R. If I did that on my calculator, I would get about 7.5, which is not 15. So really it's asking, is your answer 15 or 15-ish? And in this case it is not, and so this would be false. And here the whole thing's 360. So first I want to add up 95, 80, and 47. And so I do 95 plus 80 plus 47. I get 222. And then I do 360. You subtract that. And so 360 minus 222 is 138. All right, let's look at page 2. Page 2, the circle. You can either name using the little symbol for circle or using the word circle, and then the center. All right. Radii means each radius. And so since T is the center, LT or segment LT, NT, and MT are all the radii, or the multiple radiuses. Right? And then chords start and stop on the circle. And so the first one is LM, but then there's also JK. All right, the survey below shows the percentage of students who voted for each ice cream flavor. Explain how to determine the measure of DE. And so, first thing I will need is, where the heck is DE? DE, let me use this. DE is right here. It says 33%. And so as I'm explaining steps, my first step is going to be to change 33% to a decimal, which is 0.33. That's a point. Okay. And then my second step would be to multiply that by total degrees in a circle, which is 360. Okay. And so that is my description. And so if I was going to show the work would be 0.33 times 360, and my answer would be 118.8. And that is how I changed it from a percent to a measure. All right. And if you were in class, I asked you to change this to arc WX. And I fixed that if you got it a little bit later. But right now, both of these should be arc WX. And so to solve that, I do 3x plus 1 equals 2x plus 4. Let's talk about y very quickly. If these two chords are congruent, then their arcs are as well. And so I would minus 2x from both sides. I get x plus 1 equals 4. I minus 1, I get x equals 3. And then wx then is 3 times 3 plus 1, or 10 degrees. All right. Whole circle has 360 degrees. And so I would do 150 plus 144. Right? I get 294. I do 360 minus 294, and that gives me 66. So this would be 66. On a sidebar, angle F would be 33 because it's on the circle. But this arc here, GH, is 66. And it wasn't until earlier that somebody pointed out this question has a problem with it. And so, I really appreciate whoever pointed it out to me. Opposite angle should equal 180. And so angle Y has to be 101. And opposite angle should be 180. And so angle Z has to be 81. Now, if I was solving for x, I'd obviously do something like 5x plus 1 plus 79 equals 180. 5x plus 80 when you add those together. 5x equals 100. And so x equals 20. But x doesn't work out the same both directions, and that's a fallacy of this problem. And so I apologize for that. But you get 101 here and 81 there. And then x could be like one of two different things. And that's not right. That's not fair. But that is how, unfortunately, that works. All right, is it a tangent? And this is where you got to remember the rule that a radius, and this line right here is a radius, and a tangent, and this line right here is a tangent, or we're kind of questioning if it is or not. All right. Oh no, we're actually saying it is. We have to remember that they are perpendicular. Right? And so I'll do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And that's 169 plus x squared equals, I don't know 32 squared off my head, so 32 times 32 is 1024. And I subtract the 169, I get x squared equals 855, and then I square root, and so that x gives me 29.24 units. And so for each of these, I would have to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And so here I'm going to do 8 squared plus 9 squared equals 10 squared, which is 64 plus 81 equals 100. And of course, that's false, right? False equals not tangent. Here I'm going to do 20 squared plus 21 squared equals 29 squared, which is 400 plus 441 equals 841, and that's true, and so it is a tangent. Okay. I continue on. Down here, I'm going to do 12 squared plus 35 squared equals 37 squared, which is 144 plus 35 squared is 1225 equals 37 squared, 1369, which is true, and so it is tangent. And then here I do 5 squared plus 10 squared equals 15 squared, which is 25 plus 100 equals 225. And of course, that's false. And so it's not tangent. And so B and C end up being my answers. 13, again, they are tangent, they appear to be. And so if they are both tangent, right? These are both tangent. This side and this side would be the same. And so this is 7. And then down here, if this is 7, then this is 7. And then if this is 9, this is 9. And so I would add them all up. And so I add them all up. And I get 46 units. All right, 46. The perimeter is 46, whatever, centimeters, inches, whatever. Here, it's inside the circle. The angle's inside. So I have to remember rules for angles. On the circle, half the arc. Inside, my angle is half the arcs added. Now I know what the angle is. It's 132. So I'm not trying to find the angle. So instead of adding the arcs and dividing by 2 to find the arc, I'm going to do the reverse. I'm going to multiply by 2. And so the first thing I'm going to do is 132 times 2 is 264. And so 178 plus x equals 264. I now take my calculator. I do 264 minus 178. And I said x the whole time, but it's really y. Let me go change that. And so this should be y, and y equals 86. Right? Again, this is a problem where the chords, these lines, and the arcs go together. So if the arcs are congruent, then the chords must be as well. And so x plus 1 has to equal 2x minus 6. I subtract the x over. I add the 6 over, and I get x equals 7. Here, I know that this angle right there is equal to these two arcs added together divided by 2. And so I do 85 plus 45 divided by 2 is 130. Divided by 2 is 65. And so again, this angle right there is 65. I now have to realize that x plus 65, make a straight line, those two angles next to each other. And so they would equal 180. And so x equals 115. Here, first thing I want to find is this arc. I know that this arc right here is 62. This arc right here is 138. And so I'm going to add those together. All right, that gives me 200. And I do 360 minus 200 is 160. And so this arc is 160. Then angle C is outside of the circle. And so I take the arcs, 160 and 62. I subtract them and I divide by 2. So 160 minus 62 is 98. Divided by 2 is 49. And I think that's the last problem. So hopefully this video has helped you with the review sheet. Please make sure you have your notes organized before the test.